Duracore is going to be our focus product. So I'm going to fly through these next slides because we kind of talked about it. How about walking that calf through the ring? Bring a lot of dollar, right? Pennies thrown everywhere. So how do we control hound's tongue? Again, make your own chaparral, or 3 ounces of chaparral on hound's tongue. It's such a pretty purple flower, right? Again, gumweed, chaparral's a really broad spectrum control product for us. And it brings me to this point. So buck brush, spring treatment. You want to wait until it's fully bloomed out, until you have full leaf coverage on that buck brush. So a lot of people think, well, I can go in May. You might burn the bottom leaves off and that top will keep growing. So if you can wait until like the second week of June, depending on how hot and how fast we get there, as long as that leaf is fully emerging, you can see that leaf, go for it. Buckbrush is actually pretty easy to control. So this is 3 ounces of chaparral, and this is untreated, right? And it's amazing the new fresh grass that comes in there. I've been on ranches where the cattle just run to where they spray chaparral because that grass is so tender. It's absolutely incredible. And we all have that fence line that we probably fixed 8 times. I know I work for a rancher in Montana, not on my own place, right? Because your parents kick you off the ranch. They're like, go work for somebody else, see if you can get your butt chewed by somebody else. How many times you fix the same stretch of fence, right? How many of us carry a post counter and a fence stretcher all the time? Me. I don't want to fix that stretch of fence anymore. Let's spray it so that brush doesn't catch all the snow and pull that fence over. So that's where some of these new technologies really come in, and think about those areas that you don't really touch. But we do need to do this in the spring, in that spring time frame. So you can do Duracore at 16 ounces plus a quart of 2,4-D, or I still think like making your own chaparral or using chaparral is the way to go. I like S-Quart, as long as you're not worried about your grass and you don't spray too heavy. But if you soak it like you soaked your sister growing up or your brother growing up, you might have a problem with a dead grass spot. So I always tell people, if you're spot spraying, just get it wet. It doesn't have to be doused. Today, Tanya, you could hold me under the hose and I wouldn't stop you right now, but you don't have to soak it. Again, just a reminder, milestone stewardship with, what's that? I think it's Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. You gotta be careful with where you put that residual that's tied up in that hay bale or that's along the roadside. Don't be feeding it where you have a broadleaf crop. I had some guy tell me one time, well, I pulled a joke on my friend. I took manure from my feedlot where I'd been feeding the graze on next bale, and I spread it out in his pasture or on his soybean field, and I put his name out there, Rob, with manure. Rob was still there next year when he planted soybeans because the carryover is that great. So just be good stewards. And if your wives have ever kicked you out, I've gotten calls like that. Well, we put manure in her garden, and I'm in the doghouse because she can't grow tomatoes or anything. Don't do that, right? So appropriately use your compost. And that goes with horse manure or sheep manure or whatever you're dealing with. So really quickly, this is my last set of slides here. Pro Clover is our new herbicide. It's meant for the clover market area, so Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee. It's going to be huge. Maybe in Minnesota a little bit. If clover is a value to you, Pro Clover has great value. And that is because you have 15-day plant back, so it's got a really short residual. And it, it's very safe and preserves those desirable white clover species. It doesn't look too good on alfalfa. I think it's still going to smoke alfalfa. But as I think about your lawn situation, I think this might be really safe if you're getting any parsnip near your trees or near flower beds. Pro Clover might be a solution for you and be very safe on your grass. So, weed and feed program. I had some questions about this. Prairie Aid Partners. They're doing it out of Bancroft or Osceola. They have a blender. There's some other guys around here. Egg is doing it out of Yale. This is cool technology. Talk about the freedom to apply early, March, April, before you get busy in the field planting corn and beans. You can go early, you can go in a rainstorm, as long as you think you won't get stuck. You can go when it's blowing wind, and go out with 200 pounds of fertilizer. You're looking for a pretty good concentration rate of your fertilizer that's now been blended with Duracore or Grazon Next or Chaparral on those krills. We recommend adding a dye. I don't know if Toby and Jim add a dye or not. I told them to add pink because they always wear peach shirts together, but then you can really see where it goes and where it's placed. Now folks, we've gotten pretty creative because a lot of guys around here don't want to put up a big vertical blender and spend the money, so we've been injecting on tender trucks. Having really good luck with this program, just the fact that we ask for 200 pounds of fertilizer, but the idea that you can get it done earlier in the season means growing more grass and better grass with one pass. So this is a really cool concept, and it's working extremely well for us out there in the field. Guys are doubling their grass production, and or they're grazing for 14 more days than they would have. So think about those cool season pastures, those calving pastures you have, maybe your horse pasture. Honestly, this could really be a fit. And you can do it while they're out there, but tame season grasses, right? I think about lawn living in Sioux Falls, and they're going out and they're spraying or they're fertilizing their lawn early in the season. Well, then that tame grass has a chance to respond. So half the battle is getting more grass to outcompete the weeds, and that's what this weed and feed program allows you to do. And you might say, well, Karissa, 200 pounds is a lot of fertilizer. But remember, we talked about our 2020 vision, row crop pasture. How do we mend those two together? So you might think it's a lot, but you know, if you can get 14 more days of grazing, what does that mean? If you get a couple more tons of hay, what does that mean? If you can run a few more pear, what does that mean to your operation? What's that return on investment for you? And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you, because I know that no one operation can fit like sardines in a tin can, right? That's just not possible. Everybody's different. So you have to make it fit your operation. Again, I talked about cottage cheese, right, in April. So Duracore goes in the solution really, really well with liquid UAN if you were looking for an immediate source of nitrogen versus Grazon Next. Again, if you just fertilize, does anybody just fertilize their pasture? Here? How many pounds do you put on?
Well, you've been at my place.
Yeah.
You've done it. It's a very limited.
Mark, right?
Right. And that's why I'm here. You didn't put enough fertilizer on?
Yep.
Or can we put on the chemical every other year? Or is it something you do every year?
Yeah.
That's why I'm here tonight.
With the golden rod, that's right, I remember. So, yeah, and I think your case was, they did only 125 pounds, was it?
I don't even recall.
I know. I remember your place though, that was cool. So, that's the key, is you go to 125, you have to have lower expectations. This is really good on biennials early in the season. I think another thing is maybe they got a little bit too late on your place. But that 200 pounds, a lot of people push back on that. But you gotta think about, like, there's a weed growing in between these two krills. Those two now can get it. You get this distance with 100 pounds. Now you've got that weed in the middle. How are you supposed to get coverage on that? And timing is really necessary early with moisture, but it does have a fit versus just doing fertilizer and then coming back. It saves you money too because you can get it all in one pass.
So you're talking early spring, you're talking April,
Yes.
1st of May,
That's the
application, and then you're talking, in order to incorporate it into the fertilizer, 200 pounds per acre.
Yes, Mark.
Okay, then do you follow up with the same application year after year, or can you skip a year and go back to your 125 pounds one year, or is it something you should do every year?
Yeah.
I like the idea of being able to fertilize weed control and fence lines and under trees. We've got a lot of roads and that stuff that we can't spray.
Right.
So what's your recommendation?
I mean, So, no, why, right? I get paid by selling. But I think if I was to think about a budget, it depends what your return that you're getting. You know, I'd have to think about, okay, am I getting those extra grazing days or am I getting more grass? If you are, which you should be, then I would go at least every other year. But I'll tell you, Mark, down south by like Marion and Menno, those guys are going every year now. They started doing it and they're doing it every year. And their tame season grasses are responding so darn well that they can't afford not to because they can't afford to rent more pasture. So they are doing it every year consistently and having very good desired results. Now, I think you could implement, depending on the weed species you're going after, if you're going after buckrush and goldenrod, I think a full year application this spring might be necessary at some point. But in between those years or every third year, run the blended fertilizer program. Help your grass recover. But I also was told by a man down by Plankington, he said, this program really works if you want to grow those tame season grasses. If you want your warm season grasses to outcompete your tame season grasses, then that's not why you fertilize, right? Because your tame season grasses really thrive early in the season, so they're going to produce more. Do I have some validity, Alex? Yeah. So it depends what your goal is, but I think it has a fit. Maybe not every year, but every other year. Any thoughts?
Well, we spray every third year. You know,
Yeah.
the fall of the year when they recommend after a light frost.
Yeah.
And then the next year you have nothing. The next year you spot spray. And then by the third year you're really spot spraying. And this would, because it gets under trees and in fence lines and that kind of stuff, it has an appeal, but it has to be a feasible economic situation also.
Right, absolutely. The economics have to outweigh, be as valuable as the benefits. I gotcha. And if you tried at 200 pounds, and I would be surprised in your soil types if you didn't receive that same return on investment that you're seeing right now with 3 years and then spot spraying and then coming back and doing a full year
But we
application.
fertilize every year.
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah. So you're
You
our,
guys do nitrogen
I'm not even sure which one to do.
because we can't get results from phosphorus. And we add phosphorus to it and not just nitrogen.
Phosphorus helps the grass a bunch, way more than what they think it does.
absolutely. We're seeing a good blend of potash and phosphorus and potassium in, those guys find it in the fall right now, this blended fertilizer program with 200, 220 pounds. Not putting as much nitrogen out there, but for these cool season grasses, that fall is a primary time when it's putting a lot of energy into that root base and trying to get the secondary root system growing back down after it's been heavily grazed. So they're seeing some good stuff with a fall application of this 200 pounds with, higher phosphorus and potassium blends. And then if you're doing spring, a lot of guys are putting in sulfur to make that grass green up fast.
And what do you
That
recommend?
sulfur kind of seconds the too.
Exactly. And it makes it green up, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Is that anything else?
No, I totally agree. I understand. I had a question though. So if you do it in the fall, do you recommend doing anything in the spring, or is that your one path?
With like binding of thistle being a target
Yeah.
and vervain and some wormwood,
Yeah.
they're getting great control down there. But it's very limited in an area, I haven't had anybody try the fall application up here yet.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend trying your whole place, but maybe go out and try 50 acres or 100 acres, whatever a batch is. Go do it in the fall up here and out west, and you've got good native grasses on your place too, Mark, with how you manage. Yeah, and you've got tame, right, but
Now, did I understand you right when you were talking about your dirt board, and it won't bother like the alfalfa that's in there? You know, we fertilize our pastures and they have alfalfa in them. It will not bother the alfalfa,
it will bother.
just like chaparral.
Just like chaparral or good on
I misunderstood
Yeah, sometimes you look at alfalfa wrong and it keels over, I feel like. So that was it. I'm all out of hot air. I want to thank you all for putting your 2020 glasses on. Maybe we're already on 2021, depending on how the year's treated you. But think about growing a pound of grass, removing a pound of weeds, and that's truly what these products offer you. We have much more than what I talked about today available. I know Tanya really wanted me to cover the wild parsnip and wild carrot species because that is something that's top of mind. So please reach out to us if you have any questions. But I want to thank you guys for your time. You're welcome to call me or email me or text me. I'm happy to visit with you. With that, thanks again, and we can sure visit afterwards. I'm not going anywhere. So thank you.
Okay, so the weed board and I were talking about we have special grants we can apply for. We can work with Corteva on these special grants when we're working with them on spraying different stuff. If you have something, an idea, if you have a big pasture we can use and use it for a demonstration plot, we would love to hear from you. We need ideas for these special grants for spraying for the weed and pest board. Okay? So if you know of someone that has something you want to get rid of, give them my name, okay? And then we also have a couple guys starting their own sideline business. They're called Bullseye Spray. You might know them. They're just starting out. What I want you to do, if you guys do use these guys, let me know how they work because I don't want to recommend someone that doesn't work very good. Okay? So they're just doing specialty spraying, like your pastures, going in there with a four-wheeler and doing spot spraying and stuff like that. So if you want one of their numbers, pick them up, okay? And then also, Van Dyke Supply Company, they have discounts on Milestone this fall. So if you want to get rid of some thistles, give them a call, okay? They do Milestone torn on a lot of different mixes. Tom's been doing this for 30 years. He knows his chemicals, he knows his pasture spray, so he's a great guy to work with. I have a card up here. You can grab one of this, one of these, see what kind of discount you can get with Milestone, okay? Okay. Any other questions, you guys, for the night?
You're talking more in your fall spraying versus your spring spraying, you know, after your crops or whatever. Is there certain ones that it's going to work with more than the others for weeds?
Right. Well, they've done some different spraying for fall and spring. I know Clark County did a Milestone thing for the fall spray. It still hit 87%, and that was before it even froze. We still had 87% control of thistles, as long as you know, and that was using it every month. They were documenting it. Milestone works really good on the thistles, and I just tell people use it in the fall. If you can't get to use thistles in the spring, which I've called a lot of people. You guys know that. You probably heard I'm the weed Nazi right now. And I work with these guys. If you can't get in there and it's cutting, because I understand your pastures and the badger holes. I lived in North Dakota, for God's sake. I know badger holes. Don't want to fall in one. And just go in there in the fall. Okay? Go in the fall, spray. You're gonna get a good coverage. And you know that you buy annuals, just do it every 2, you know, like you said, 3 years, you're spot spraying anymore. I mean, why do you want to waste pasture land? We don't have enough here over in the eastern part of the world compared to the west. You don't want to waste the pasture land on thistles or sagebrush. I've been seeing that up in the northwest or northeast part. When I did my inspections last year, I couldn't believe how much was popping up. But it's an easy weed to control.
Yeah.
Sagebrush.
So I was
those thistles.
well, actually, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sage,
Yeah.
but there's no real like temperature cutoff for spraying or start period. So what Tanya's quoting is like you could go spray Canada thistle that's on the full seed because it grows in such a patch. you know, yeah, it'd be great if you would have sprayed it when it first turned purple and you get all the seeds flying out. You didn't get that. So you can get 95% control when you see that first purple flower, 87% control when you see the flying thistle. When it comes to, you can spray right now on biennials. I mean, we're seeing new rosettes, but a lot of times you're gonna have aerial spraying and frost sensitive crop around. I know guys in county, they're not gonna spray until the leaves start falling on the trees and these beans truly senesce. But the biggest thing with fall spraying is wait until that heavy dew comes off early in the morning. If you are after the first light frost, right, you don't want to spray when you have a dew sitting on any of your leaves because you don't get as good penetration. It'll run off with the water droplets or evaporate.
Well, I was just worried like the thistles right now, and some of them, they look like your broomstick, you know?
Yeah.
What's gonna absorb, I mean, and then some of them we're still playing with some hay on some of that, so you're clipped it, you don't have much there for it to absorb.
Right.
So that's why I'm just saying,
Yeah.
where do you draw your line on your fall versus your spring or your fertilizing application? I mean, and if you're injecting your fertilizer, you're using about the same rate as your liquid spray per acre?
Well, that's just instant nitrogen, right? We don't have access to all those other,
I'm just saying if I'm just spraying, not fertilizing the spring, just spraying for bad fruit versus your injection on your fertilizer in spring or fall.
Right.
Are you using about the same rate and you end up the same dollar per acre?
Yes, I mean, it's gonna be more expensive to do fertilizer.
Well, because the fertilizer cost, but I'm just saying for the chemical side.
Yeah, it's same cost. We don't really have discounts one to the next. We get one price come October 1st, and that's generally what we stick with. Now, like Tom has a different deal going on because it's milestone. I don't started that a couple years ago, but yeah, fall spraying anytime on thistles. Rosettes, wait for rosettes. If you just mowed, if you just hay, you'll see new growth within a couple weeks. We just need a good shot of rain and then you'll see it. Unfortunately, yeah. So,
Yeah, and a lot of parts, we're working with it, we're trying to get rid of it. The biggest thing I've seen with that, we did, FCSU came up here on Bill Wilkinson's land right outside of town, we used different chemicals. I asked them to use it early, I requested before it headed out, and they did not. So I didn't see anything too promising from their, what they used. When you want to hit this, you've got to hit it in the rosette stage. You cannot hit it in the flower stage because 2 weeks later it might die and it's already seeded out. I've seen it. I've taken pictures. I've done documentation for the state on this stuff. If it's flowering, you're too late. Just cut it then. Just cut it. Get in there early. Hit it fast. And just don't let it grow because this stuff is going nuts on us right now. So if you see it in pasture, just get it, okay?
We really like flu areas.
right.
In our,
Low wet areas.
Yeah.
our
where you can't cut
hemlock, our hemlock is spaced in one little space. There was, I did document one down south, but that is a field, so they pretty much, they plowed it up. It's not in the cornfield right now. The only other place we have it up is up north. We have it under control right now. Let's keep it under control. They need to keep it cut or they need to keep it sprayed every year. If I see it starting to spread, then I'm going to have to talk to my landowners again. Anything else, you guys?
I'm gonna ask about, hay ground. What should we spray on that? I got thistles on the hay ground.
With alfalfa.
Yeah, it's alfalfa grass.
Grass mix. Yeah, so I always have to ask myself when it's an alfalfa grass mix, which is a great question that I get a lot, is what's taking up more value on that land? Is it the alfalfa or is it the thistles? Sometimes you kill alfalfa, sometimes you don't. I think you start clean, you stay clean. So if there was never an opportunity where you felt like, okay, the alfalfa is really not adding that much value, why don't I spray it? Fall can be a good time after a hard frost to negate some of that loss on your legumes because they're shallow seeded. So you spray in the fall, you're going to minimize your risk, but you might still take out some of your alfalfa, and you can just use any of the healthy fertilizers we talked about. And then maybe in a couple of years, once you get it cleaned up, you can come back in and put some different legumes out there again. Some alfalfa.
One price will throw
You, you're gonna hurt your alfalfa either way.
Use it for hay, then you can use it for
You
hay.
can use it for hay, and you can sell it off the farm. I think that's where that Corteva is gonna play. I'll be honest, they didn't really wanna put Corteva in my area, but I fought for it. That Corteva that has very little residual, but great broadleaf leaf knockdown and is safe on white clover. I think that could be a fit for hay because it doesn't have residual, so if you're selling your hay off of your farm, you don't have to explain the milestone carryover to whoever's purchasing your hay. So there's options. I don't know, what do you guys recommend? Alex?
There it is tough. I recommend a thick stand usually.
Thick sand alfalfa or
Yeah,
grass, right?
yeah, because it's so tough once it starts getting beyond that. No buck trill. I don't know if it kills anything other than kochia.